Well, you know what TV show Wild Bull Curry wasn't on this week? Or even Wild Bill Cowery? NXT.
No, he wasn't.
He was not. And the show is so schizophrenic. I'm going to praise several things on this program highly, and then some of it I couldn't even stand to watch. It's always one or the other. It's always either too hot or too cold. It's never just right. The opening match was almost like a rib on us. Austin Theory, but he's the greatest young talent in the world. He's a future superstar. This guy's got everything. He's the complete package. They have him beat to death, quit the business. He's gone for a month. He comes back, and now to watch Austin Theory, I've got to watch the Same Face family and a wrestler literally named Indy. And the opening match on this program, Kushida and Leon Ruff against Johnny Sameface and Austin Theory with Mrs. Sameface and Indy Hartwell in their corner. And it's come to this, where a potential future superstar is in a match where he weighs more than his partner and his opponents combined. This was like one of those basketball camps where kids get to go out and dribble with fucking Dr. J or something. And I'm not saying Kushida can't wrestle. I'm saying he's microscopic. I'm not saying that Leon Ruff doesn't have charisma. He's a human skeleton. I'm not saying that Johnny Sameface is the shit. Yes, I am. But so I'm watching for Theory in this match. Tell me, I'm going to just go over the highlights of this match, and you tell me if I saw what I saw, Brian, and if I absorbed it right. Kushida took Austin Theory down, rode him like a camel and spanked him like a jobber, and then give him a reverse nut shot and tagged Leon in. Theory couldn't catch Leon, but then finally stopped him and tagged Sameface in so they could do some breakdancing. It looked like pro wrestling at a daycare center. Finally, after a long time, Sameface tags Austin Theory back in. He does one move and then tags out, but then tags right back in so that he and Johnny Sameface can try to do a double team that the babyfaces foil, knock him down to the floor, and then Leon goes for a big running dive where he runs up the ropes, jumps off the top rope, does a front flip, and flips on the pile on the floor, right? Only Leon slipped coming off the rope and crashed on the floor, flipped and just landed on his fucking ass, missed everybody. The other guys just went down by themselves and then hid and watched. And you would have believed that this guy he sold his leg. You would think he'd broken it. You would think he was unable to continue. Austin Theory just picks him up and chucks him back in the ring, and Leon gets up and DDTs him. Leon is immediately up on his feet after this spill that he just took, but gets hit with a double team by the heels that was snazzy. Theory did his roll-in drop kick, and he knocked Leon into a spear, diving in spear from Sameface, and that was their heat spot, and they went to break. They were about to start to get the heat on Leon Ruff anyway. That was their break spot. This fucking guy slips off the top rope and falls flat of his back on a concrete floor 10 feet below with a thud. That couldn't have been the heat spot. Since it was apparent he lived, that couldn't have been the heat spot, but instead they have to throw him back in, let him beat them up some more, and then stop him. So then they go to the heat, they go to the break. They've got the heat on Leon. And they come back from the break, and 15 seconds back from the break, Leon's fighting back already. And have you noticed every time there's a heat spot, they go to a break in all these matches, all the programs? So the heels get fucked because all the heat they get on the babyface gets cut out in the commercial break. And the babyface gets fucked because when the babyface starts making a comeback after you've seen him down for 15 seconds, it doesn't register anyway because you don't know he had the heat put on him. Leon did a flying enziguri, tagged Kushida, who kicked the shit out of both heels by himself, including using those devastating head palm shoot-offs. Somebody asked on Twitter, what's he mean, a head palm shoot-off? What is that? I thought it was self-explanatory, but that's when you put your hand on the back of a grown man's head and flick your wrist, and he runs 10 feet to the opposing ropes and bounces off so you can hit him with something. That's a head palm shoot-off, and I'd fire anybody that did it on any of my programs. Leon then hit a springboard missile drop kick off the top rope. I guess he's fine. Multiple tags in and out, back and forth advantage. Austin Theory hit a spinning power bomb on Leon and got a 2 count. Leon Ruff is the toughest man in the history of professional wrestling. More back and forth. Leon hits a flying cutter off the top rope. And finally, Austin Theory hit Leon with some kind of big move that didn't look anywhere near as devastating as the fucking fall he took on the ground halfway through the match and got the 1, 2, 3. They put maybe the best in-ring prospect in the business in a match with children. He needed everything short of a bazooka to beat a human skeleton, and the announcers had to sell it like it was a big accomplishment. They could literally hang Leon Ruffin in the corner of a medical school and have a professor point at him with a pointer. But he's the strongest man in the business. Is that what you saw?
I guess.
Now that I've phrased it that way?
I thought Kushida looked good in there. He doesn't look so small when he's in there with Gargano. I thought...
Neither does Ant-Man.
I thought that Austin Theory looks like he's in great shape. He looks like a wrestler. I'm not a fan of this group, The Way. It just looks off.
I'd like to show him the way out.
When it's Gargano and him and Gargano's wife and Indy Hartwell, it just doesn't look like a wrestling faction. It looks like it was thrown together. And Leon Ruff, I mean, the problem is his size, but he's very talented. Some of his stuff, I know you were being funny when you called it breakdancing, but it does look...
Yes.
There's no other way to describe it. It's not wrestling in a way that... It does. I mean, it looks like a dance routine. I hate to say it.
But now here's the thing. You just said, yes, Leon, he has a magnetic charisma about him, the underdog thing. He can do some stuff. It was a good deal the other week that they actually got over with me when he was the little buddy partner. And you can do something with that. But he's just out here fucking surviving everything and working competitively with these large people, and it's ridiculous. I was at that point in the program, I said, I am completely disinterested in the rest of this show right now. And I made a decision. I didn't know who was coming up or what was going to happen, but I was going to fast forward until I saw either Tommaso Ciampa, Rhea Ripley, or the Undisputed Era. So I fast forwarded and Ciampa came up. It wasn't too long. Did I miss anything?
I don't remember what you would have missed. I watched it, but I didn't write down what was in what order.
Well, I don't care. Tommaso Ciampa was did they at one point call him Rust Tyler? Because then they were calling him Tyler Rust or Rust Taylor or something. His name has been changed recently. He's a student of Timothy Thatcher.
He also lost his mustache.
He lost his mustache. No, that was a different guy.
No, that was him. Wasn't it?
No. The really not physically pleasing looking guy that has been Thatcher's student for the past few weeks, this was a different guy.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm positive. His other student remember he was kind of skinny fat and 80s style hair. See,
there's the problem.
Well, I thought it was this guy too.
I thought it was this guy. I thought it was this guy without the mustache. I thought it was the same guy.
No. This guy's got a better body. Come on. Old Rusty, he looks pretty good, and he seemed to know what he was doing, but this is a new talent here that's come in. You weren't paying attention to the announcers that you don't like.
What was the name of the other guy?
I can't fucking remember.
I'm going to look
Nobody else can either.
All right.
But no, this kid was good. He knows what he's doing. He's in shape. He needs maybe a new hairdo. It's just a little bland and stringy. But I like Ciampa's matches. And there was one spot before the break where they did the oops spot where Rusty accidentally kicked Thatcher because Ciampa moved, and that was a little setup looking. And Thatcher had come down to ringside. Of course, then the referees take him out after that, so he's made to look foolish. That was their heat spot for Russ to take over, but they make Thatcher look foolish first. They don't need to make him look foolish. Anyway, they go through the break. They come back within seconds. Once again, they've cut out all the heat. So within seconds, Ciampa's making a comeback. Boom, boom, boom. Rust went to some nice submissions. Did you see that front flip snap mare? He did an incredible arm tie-up where Ciampa had to get a rope break. That was good. Ciampa did a big fired-up comeback. Boom, boom, boom. He's got that intensity. He hit the Widow's Bell, the DDT, draping DDT, 1, 2, 3. They had a really good match. They've just put no heat on Thatcher and his group. Thatcher has his students bowing up on him and getting away with it. They lose, or they get run off, or they are made to look foolish. Thatcher's good. This kid Rust is good. Ciampa's great. They had a good match, but it could have so much more oomph behind it, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't care that much. And it's not the wrestler's fault. It's NXT. It's the way things are presented. It's the feeling of it. It was just, it didn't connect with me. By the way, the other guy was August Gray. You were right. Two different
There
guys.
you go. There you go. August. He was back in, August was in November.
All these guys have such, like, just generic garbage names that it's easy to forget who is who and what is what.
Well, yeah, it's like they name people by reading these Harlequin romance novels. You know, The Prince and the Princess of So-and-so by Marcel Barthel. Or what? Anyway, so that was that. And you're right, it's not the talent's fault, because they're not, unlike on the other program, they're not going out and making themselves look foolish on purpose. They're being told to do these things. The next match. Remember I said I was going to zip through, I only want to see Ripley, The Era, or Ciampa? I did hit the trifecta on this program. Kyle O'Reilly against Pete Dunne, the winner gets Finn Balor. That makes sense. O'Reilly's the guy that fucking jacked Balor's jaw, but Dunn came out last week or whenever, and they've got this. So the winner of this match gets Balor, and it's a rematch from when they hooked up at War Games and etc. So that's fine. However, they hadn't even started this match. Here comes Killian Drain and Drake Maverick, and they jump Birch and Lorcan, and Cole jumps in the fucking schmaz, and here comes Fandango, did a dive, and everybody's in a fight, and then they all just leave, and then the match starts. So at least they got him out of there. But God, that was busy at the start. But O'Reilly and Dunn started hot and did their stuff. They were using the horrible fake crowd noise again, and that's really distracting in a match like this, where you really want to hear the smacks and the kicks and the... But they do some nice worked MMA stuff. They did a little more contrived flip and duck sequence on the apron and the floor than I was crazy about, but this was stiff and they worked hard. They went through a break, come back on the other side of fucking Dunn got his fucking lip busted open, smash mouth offense, as JR used to say. These guys take their shit seriously, and they make it look like an athletic contest. They did do the deal where they're both on the top rope forever and a day, but you know, they went through another break. I liked this match, but it was so broken up. Tell me we can't go to more breaks during the fucking children's matches? Anyway, I found that they did a really nuts suplex off the apron of the floor spot that actually looked halfway credible, like it just happened that way instead of being set up. And then O'Reilly hit his knee drop off the top to the back of Dunn's head. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And it'll be O'Reilly and Balor in a rematch of the Battle of the Broken Jaw. That made sense. These guys took it seriously. They hit hard. It's a different style. It was like watching actual athletes ply their craft. I couldn't find too much wrong with this compared to everything else on the program.
It was really good. I didn't like the tag team fights at the beginning, especially the return of Breezango, which no one was asking for. But it was really good. I have to say, more and more in 2020, Kyle O'Reilly has really impressed me.
Yeah.
And you could tell they see something in him, and they're trying to, I mean, it appears they're trying to elevate him beyond just being a member of the Undisputed Era. But he's been fantastic. And
he's different.
And he seems legit. And I know he actually is. He's done some training and stuff. But when you watch him in the ring, it's not insulting in any way. He seems like a guy who's trying to win a match. And I think he's really come into his own. He's really, really good.
And from that point, explain this to me. When they had crowds in the arena, could you hear them cheering when they went to the backstage interviews? I don't remember that, but now they go to a backstage interview with Rhea Ripley and the fake crowd is cheering the backstage pre-tape. Why? Can't get away from that noise.
Well, you see, in WWE, they listen to the fans. It just so happens the fans are fake.
Yeah. Well, Rhea Ripley did a good promo. She looks great. She sounds great. We're going to see her later on. But we go into part 67 of the Chinese snuff film. And now, poor Boa. Boa's the guy, right? She is the girl. She is now beating the shit out of Boa at the exhortation of the old master. It's so phony now. And I mean, besides the fact that poor Boa legitimately is getting the shit kicked out of him, all this slow-mo stuff they're doing where she has to kick him and they hit him with the cane and everything, they're never hitting the girl. They can't get away with that. So they can't decide, because in a movie you can hit a girl, but I guess on the wrestling program you can't, even though this is a movie in the wrestling program and it's all phony anyway. This is the most obviously not real thing I've ever seen. And it would look great if they were in some kind of Chinese martial arts movie, but this pertains in no way to anything that I want to see on a wrestling program. What are they doing here?
I have no idea. And it was so dramatic. I mean, it was shot like, she's crying.
Yes.
And it's right in her face. I mean, it looked like a horror film.
Yes.
But I don't know if this is going to make anyone care.
The poor Boa. Ribs on you, pal. Next up was Shotzi versus Indy. I exercised every rule I could think of. Next match was Karrion Kross's back with Scarlett against Desmond Troy. And Karrion Kross came to the ring, beat this guy up, and beat him quick. And that's exactly what they should have done. He's back, and he's mad. So that served that purpose. And then finally and thankfully, we got to Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm. I did not fast forward this because this is not a girls' match. This is a women's match. Both of them look great. They've got attitude. They've got facials. They actually make noise when they take a bump. Half the girls don't weigh enough. When they hit the ring, it goes, pff, sounds like a mouse pissing on cotton. Rhea Ripley to me is a better worker than Toni Storm, but Toni Storm has some of everything. The charisma, the promo, the work, the look, the whole nine yards. So they did different stuff. This wasn't the same old girls match bullshit. They didn't do 1,000 ridiculous big moves and get up from it, but it was a struggle and it made sense and it wasn't girls fighting. They went through a break. I would have loved to have seen this full length, but Rhea Ripley has fire in her comeback. Did you see the great fucking double headbutt, double knockout spot they did?
Yeah.
And the body length, both of them sold it a different way. Toni Storm just drops right on her ass and straight back holding her head. Rhea Ripley did the turn dish rag bump. I love that shit. They sold it for a while. They didn't get right back up. Then they went back and forth. Rhea Ripley got her clover leaf, which I love that hold, and she just pulls the girl up off the mat with it. And Storm foiled it and fucking hit her with a German suplex. At this point, I wrote they're putting the men on both of the shows to shame. It says some nice wrestling moves for false finishes, and then finally here comes Raquel Gonzalez. There's the issue with the, between her and Rhea. So Gonzalez gets bumped at first because Rhea's looking good, but then as Rhea's going after Storm, the referees, they didn't have a good shot of this on camera, but when Ripley rolled Storm into the ring, Storm got up on her knees, started getting up and grabbed the referee like to keep from falling and turned him around so that Gonzalez jerked Rhea off the apron and speared her like a lawn dart into the post, which looked good. And then Storm hit her finish, which I can't remember what they called it, but that looked good. 1, 2, 3. That was a great girls match, and the finish worked. I don't normally like to see Ripley do jobs since she should be the biggest star in wrestling. But for this girl's a good match for her. They did a good finish. It came off. Rhea Ripley had an out. Toni Storm gets some heat. Furthers the thing with Gonzalez. This was my favorite thing on the whole show. It's the best thing on the show.
It was really good. I mean, I really liked the O'Reilly match. I thought that was really good too.
Well, I hesitate. It's two different things. I've seen O'Reilly and Dunn before, and I've seen good men's matches before. It's so little we get a chance to see a good girls match.
Did you see the package they did? It was like a Toni Storm interview with her talking about Rhea Ripley. It was earlier in the show.
I honestly probably thought that I was zipping too fast because sometimes I hit the really fast forward. It jumps a few things.
I thought it was really good. I thought Toni Storm did a good job of selling the fact that she's the one who chased Rhea Ripley out of NXT UK. They showed some footage that she knows her better than anyone else.
I've heard her speak before, and she's very good.
Yeah, it was very good. I really liked it, and it was a really good match. Once again, the only problem I have, nothing against Toni Storm, but they beat Ripley again. They have, whatever you want to say about anything they've done right with Toni Storm or whatever, I don't need to see Shotzi Blackheart anymore.
Yeah.
They have blown it with Rhea Ripley in 2020.
Yeah.
Criminally so, because she has more potential as a star in a women's wrestling division than anyone in the entire fucking business.
Well, without doubt. And here's what we've talked about this before. It's not necessarily what you do here, but it's that's gone on before. If Rhea Ripley had been dominant and had not done some of these meaningless jobs for these half-priced women, and Toni Storm had got this win with Gonzalez's help, it would have been more like beating Hulk Hogan and less like beating Scotty 2 Hotty.
Well, the thing is, she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania, and then shortly after that, Charlotte out of action for the remainder of the year.
But that was such a great match. That loss wasn't that bad.
It was the best match of WrestleMania, but if she had won that...
she could have come back as strong and fucking dominant, and instead it's just she's been playing with the kids and the whole Robert Stone thing and the fucking...
Hey, where's he? Whatever happened to him?
Don't ask. Somebody might tell us. But anyway, yeah, yes, I like this. You probably didn't like it as much as I did. You're right. If she'd have been booked stronger, this would have meant more. But if I could see a girls' match that I can stomach, much less like, I'm not going to argue with it. This was fine. And that was my thoughts on NXT.
And that was NXT.
And you know what? I've found that after you watch NXT and before you head to All Friends Wrestling, you might want to clean your bowels out a little bit. Make yourself a little healthier. Make yourself feel a little better, because sometimes you're going to have a little bit of a sick, nauseated feeling in the pit of your stomach after you watch one or both of these wrestling programs. Well, folks, if you want to make yourself healthy, contribute to your gut health, contribute to your immune system, all without the need to take multiple products, just go right to the folks at Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive daily nutritional beverage that I personally have ever drunk. With so many things you got going on in your life, it's difficult to maintain the effective nutritional habits, give our bodies the nutrients that it needs to thrive and survive. Brian, you hate making a mess with all your juicing and everything. And I hate going out in public and shopping for all these products that you have to glom into each other and blend it all up. Well, with Athletic Greens, you don't have to worry about all that stuff, because you have one tasty scoop of Athletic Greens and some water, shake it up in the shaker that they provide. It contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, a multimineral, a probiotic, a green superfood blend, and more. Athletic Greens is lifestyle friendly whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, or even eating dairy fleas. Dairy fleas sometimes are a source of vitamin D, but often can give you testicular cancer. So don't eat the dairy fleas. Instead, eat the Athletic Greens, folks. And if you get Athletic Greens right now, they're offering my audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit my link today. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCE and you'll get your free 1-year supply of vitamin D, which helps your immune system, and 5 free travel packs. athleticgreens.com/JCE. Join the health experts, athletes, and health-conscious go-getters around the world who make a daily commitment to their health. Athletic Greens.
You know, we're about to hit the new year. So many people want to have a change of lifestyle. It's time to invest in your health. Athletic Greens is a great way to kick that off.
Speaking of kicking things off, are you kicked off the air yet? Are you doing programs during Christmas?
There will be
Is the Arcadian Vanguard Network still operating over the holidays?
We never take a break. I had 1 day off in 2020, and there'll be lots of shows coming at you over the next few weeks. Of course, get information about all shows on Twitter @Superpodcasts or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. This week on the Super Studcast for patrons of Ron Fuller's Studcast at patreon.com/Studcast, the Tennessee Stud speaks with WWE Hall of Famer, the Birdman, Koko B. Ware, formerly known as Koko Ware, stellar wrestler in Tennessee. But then he became a Birdman. Find out about his path to birddom on this week's Super Studcast. Once again, patreon.com/Studcast. A really, really fun talk. And of course,
I saw Koko Ware in 1981 when he'd been in the business for 3 years. He was the best young athlete and the best young heel in the business. And what a bumper and what an athlete. And missile drop kicks off the top rope, fist drops off the top 3/4 of the way across the ring, backwards bumps over the top rope. Just fucking incredible. Leaping ability was incredible. He went up there to the New York and got that bird, gained weight, and holy shit. And there you have it.
Well, he was once great, and hear all about that on the Super Studcast. I believe they even talk about his tag team with Bobby Eaton, and of course, his tag team, the Pretty Young Things, with Norvell Austin. Hear about it today, patreon.com/Studcast. Also want to make mention of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, Then and Now, where John and myself review shows from 30 years ago from his landmark wrestling radio show, Pro Wrestling Spotlight. You can get the complete episodes, the entire archive of them, at patreon.com/Arezzi. But I want to make mention of something we're doing right now on the podcast at pwspod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. It's a 2-part episode, October 7th, 1990, in the studio for 2 hours, is Paul E. Dangerously, a young Paul Heyman. For those of you who are new fans, who only know Paul Heyman as the Advocate on WWE TV, you need to hear this. This is out of control radio. He was so filled with energy. Back then, it must be heard. I will say this.
He had better wind back then. Paul could talk a lot faster back then.
You know what hit me while listening to this? And he's 25 here. He reminds me a lot of MJF in just their abilities to keep the work going, to never stop with the work. Even if they throw little bits of truth in there, it's right back to the work. And I want to play a clip. Again, it's a 2-part episode because there was so much to review. We couldn't do it in one episode and do it justice. But Paul is jumping all over everyone. He ruins the news report that Don Leibel does. He ruins several live reads for sponsors. And eventually, he goes at it with a very popular caller named George from Lindenhurst. Now, there was a trivia question. Who is the wrestling brother of Rock and Roll Express member Robert Gibson? And George from Lindenhurst calls in. George is a child who early on would annoy John Arezzi by calling in, but eventually John kind of took a liking to him. But he calls in rather briefly, wants to know about who's injured and matches coming up. And here he is, meeting Paulie dangerously.
Okay, let's take another call. George from Lindenhurst. George, you're on the air.
Hi, John. I would like to, know, do you know any of the, matches for Saturday night's main event?
For Saturday night's main event?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Okay.
Hey, I'd like to know if you're a boy or a girl, George.
He's a little guy. Leave him alone. George, you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't have the matches in front of me. I know Haku is going to be in action against Kerry Von Erich, I believe. Yeah, Kerry Von Erich.
Hey, George, pick up a TV guide and find out, huh?
Tell him I know the answer. Okay.
Yes, it's Ultimate Warrior also in a tag team match with
Hey, hold it, George.
the Legion
George,
of Doom
hold it,
against
hold it.
Demolition. Will be another one of the
George,
matches.
who's that talking to you in the background?
No one.
No, I heard somebody talking to you.
My mom.
Put your mom on the phone.
And Rhythm and Blues against Hulk Hogan and Tugboat will
Put
be
your
the
mom
other
on the
match.
phone.
She's on. What do you want?
Now, what do you want?
Kirk is the answer to that other question.
Kirk?
Kirk Gibson?
Kirk Gibson. Hey, lady. You're wrong.
I'm sorry. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hope your broom doesn't crash.
Holy smokes. Evan from Great Neck, you're next, right here at the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
When you hear action like that, it's so much
wait
more.
a minute, I just want to say one thing. On this 30-year-old audio cassettes of John Arezzi's, it badly needs a pitch control. I don't want Paul Heyman to ever say that I sound like Mickey Mouse on amphetamines ever again.
He says that on this episode.
Well, 30 years later, he sounds more like Mickey Mouse on amphetamines than I ever did.
Of course, Kirk Gibson was the 1988 National League MVP.
Well, I didn't know that.
Not the brother of Robert Gibson.
I just thought that they thought that Ricky Gibson's name was Kirk.
Well, you hear a lot more action like that, including Paul Heyman fighting with a telephone operator. PWSpod.com. Once again, hear the full episode before we review it. Patreon.com/Arezzi. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership.
Yeah.
All right. Go through the archive today at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcast. Thank you to everyone who has listened to our Pat Patterson tribute episode and sent in comments. We really do appreciate it. And the next episode is in production right now. Should be out probably in the middle of the time where we're not recording the experience over the next couple of weeks. But once again, go through the archives at 605pod.com and stay tuned for more from the Super Podcast.